Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Alright, here we go. Welcome to the Pocket Dimension. Once again, we will paint all the things. So, let's talk about Adepticon. So I went to Adepticon 2 weeks ago now and had a pretty great time. A lot less stress this year than last year. Last year we had some trouble. When I say we, I'm talking about the Sea Dog Game Studios crew, which would have been Brian and his wife Elizabeth, the chief cook and bottle washers there, and then Dave, our senior GM, and me, our junior senior GM. Dave outranks me just a little bit as far as the seniority goes, but at this point, after nearly 20 years, who's counting? Anyway, last year we had trouble getting up there with the trailer was giving some troubles, but this year the trailer was fixed and hooked up real nice, and we loaded it up and we left. Let me do this. Nobody really wants to see my face, but we're going to do that. I'm going to do that anyway. Might as well, right? So yeah. So we went up there. Got up at a pretty decent time this time. Last year we got in really late. And this year we set the booth up. Very little stress. We got there much earlier. Excuse me, I'm going to pop out the chats here so I can see who all is up and running. No, I will not add you to Discord because that is a bot. And we're going to get rid of this bot. First, we're going to report the bot. Bot at 16 minutes and I don't know, 15 seconds. We're going to block you and we're going to ban you because you're a bot. So, anyhow, block the bot. Get rid of the bots. Don't need the bots. So anyway, yeah, got up there at a decent time, set up the booth, had it pretty well ready to go for the next morning. Dave went over and set up the games, except for our Tech Commander game, where that was going to be, was the space was taken up by the big blue Terminator model from Games Workshop, because Games Workshop was in the ballroom that is next to the space where we have our games set up. So that wasn't really too bad. Tech Commander sets up pretty quickly anyway. So yeah, so that was pretty much the first day of Adepticon, first unofficial day. The dealers, where the dealers go in and set things up, and the GMs show up, and people get their badges the evening before, and there's a few little things going on. The major game events usually start happening on Thursday. There was a creator meetup as well on Wednesday evening. I didn't get to go. I didn't get to go last year. I didn't get to go this year. We were just too busy setting up the booth. So maybe get to go next year. I didn't get to see everybody that I wanted to see, people that are also in the creator space. That's why I like the creator meetup, because I'm a creator, supposedly. But it puts everybody who... That was weird. Should I return fire? Or run for cover? I don't know what that was. Strange noises outside. Happens when you live next to a house with teenagers, I guess. So anyhow, yeah. So as a content creator, I like to visit with other content creators who I often only see online. So it's nice to get that check-in with them in person and say hello, talk a little bit, little interchange of encouragement, I guess you could say. Because I didn't get to see anybody this year, hardly. I saw the few people I got to see. I saw in passing, and it wasn't much more than just enough to say, "Hey, how you doing?" I did talk with a couple at length. So that was nice. I did get to see some people and visit at length. So chat for a little bit. That was nice. I got to see another Dave. That would be Dave Taylor. I got to visit with him for a little bit. That was nice. Got to see Sam from Warpgate Studios. Got to chat with him for a little bit. I was able to visit with Monster Den Minis. We, of course, those of us who are on Twitch have kind of I won't say a small community, but raiding, the raid feature on Twitch leads you down strange paths. So you wind up raiding out to people, and you wind up hitting it off with certain people, and so you wind up sort of building that community in an organic fashion with a raid function, a function that I think YouTube would do very well to have. YouTube's great for discoverability. Excuse me. Speaking of YouTube, I need to pop out the chat here. Oh, hey DS. Hey, Michael. Just a minute. I did not see you there. I didn't have the chats popped up. I apologize. I am rectifying that issue right now. If you're still watching. DLSD25. To the gorge. Interesting. DLSD. You said the gorge. Do you go to the Red River Gorge? Is that it? So we sell our Sea Dog Game Studios sells 2 games. One's called Tech Commander, and it is a big stompy robot combined arms mecha game. It's it leans into modern game design. If BattleTech's too slow for you, Tech Commander is very fast. Things die quickly. Basically, it represents 15 seconds of time. The whole turn represents about 15 seconds of time, and you really do have to keep your head on a swivel. So, Tech Commander is one of our games. Here is one of the units I've been working on for Tech Commander. This is one of our big stompy robots. And one of the cool things about Tech Commander is if you want to change your loadout, let's see. Do I have any weapons, other weapons to stick on here right now? Yes, I do. Here we go. Let's do this. If you wanted to change your loadout, come here, I dropped that. Let me pick it up. Oh, before I step on it. Let's see, I don't have another one. Anyway, you can change your loadout and customize your mech, so you don't have to always play with the same equipment stuck to your ride. So we could do this. So I could put these long range cannons on, or I could put on long range cannons. This ride has has a railgun and has a couple of different long range guns that have slightly different weapon profiles. Or I could set it up with, as long as there's enough capacity on the mech as far as energy and weight that it can handle, I could set it up with the medium range Devastators. So I could set something like that up with rotary cannons and like it. I'm not sure if you can actually do that with this ride. I think you can, because it's a large ride, so therefore it should be able to handle the weight and energy allocation on that. But there's not a lot of record keeping. You're not ticking off a Scantron sheet. Like I said, things die fast, and it's really the fastest game you've never played. So it kind of leans into that whole skirmish game, modern game design, especially the deathmatch style of play, which we released the 3rd edition at Adepticon. So it's probably the best version of Tech Commander so far. Yeah, we think that the customization feature is really one of the key selling points. That way you could buy a weapons pack and 3 or 4 mechs and just really have a good time without having to buy multiple copies of the same mech. And it's just wooden dowels pegged together. You could use magnets if you wanted to. If you got magnets and opened up the holes a little bit, but they do sell the kits with a little piece of dowel that you just cut and put into the holes. So kind of DIY. It's very punk rock, very garage, front room, spare bedroom sort of a deal there. So Tech Commander 3rd edition is out now, available at Sea Dog Game Studios. I don't get anything for plugging it. Again, it's grassroots sort of thing. So 3rd edition Tech Commander is available for pre-order right now. The book is locked in, so the PDF is available, I believe. The full PDF is $10. That's all 300 and so many pages. It's like 300 and some odd pages for $10 on the PDF. Right now, if you pre-order the hard copy book, the hard copy book is going at $58 for the pre-order copy. After it goes to print, it will be $65 for the hard copy, which is still not bad. The book is 360 some odd pages long, and you're thinking, "Wow, that's a lot of rules." Well, the rules portion is only 60 pages, about average for any rule book like this. It covers a wide range of scenarios. Then there's a fiction section, but there are unit cards The rest is fiction and unit cards, and there are, I want to say, 200 some odd unit cards. So, Columbia River Gorge, okay, I got you. Gorge in George Washington. Yeah, no, the only gorge I know is Red River. But, yeah, it is a great price. So, if you want the fastest playing Met game on the market, you like customization. Now, I realize other games have customization, like, what's it, Steel Rift? I think Steel Rift has customization, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We did it first. We just don't have fancy pants influencers talking about our products. So, nobody knows about us. We're the little company that can. So check it out. Like I said, the PDF is only $10 for the full book. If you wanted to give it a look, and then you decided that, because our hobby as miniature gamers, our hobby is very tactile, so it's nice to have that book. I can search and find something in a book a lot faster than a PDF. I'm not a PDF guy. But yeah, so $65 for the big book, and $58 if you pre-order it. So, but yeah. And then, of course, we have our flagship game called Sail Power, which everything's packed away in shelf number 5 back there, which is behind the other 3 shelves. Anyhow, Sail Power. We almost sold out of Sail Power at Adepticon. We almost sold out of all of our Sail Power models. So, Sail Power is an open world adventure game set in the Age of Sail. And it covers everything from the Age of Piracy from 1690 to 1720 till the Age of Revolutions to 1815 or so. Now, the great thing about Sail Power models is, they're 3D printed. Let's see. I've got some bits. So I've got some bits. Some of us game masters will pull out of like things that didn't quite pass muster for sale to the public. So we'll pick up factory seconds and the like this hull. I think this hull is actually a little outsized. It got printed too big. About 10%. Hey, Greedy, how you doing? Good to see you. But, as you can see, the sails and the masts all come already printed out. So you got the sails and the mast. You've got the rigging that goes up the sides right there. And you've got the hull. Come here, hull. Where the hull is the hull. I was just looking at it a minute ago. So that would pop out to that. And so you've got the mast and the shrouds already printed out. So you don't have to build them. So yeah, so here's the hull. So I've been doing pretty good, Greedy. Been doing pretty good. So glad to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, so it's something Brian had talked about for a while, and a couple of years ago he kind of had his blue LED moment and was able to print out the masts and shrouds, so that basically what happens is you get these out of the box, and instead of having to build things up. So this is a Warlord Games ship right here. And there's paper sails and little pieces of string to do all the rigging. Yeah, not really quite about that. So you can do your rigging. Here's your rigging. You can do your sails, all one piece. And you see the little holes right here. So you just pop this out of the raft. So they're 3D printed, and as everybody knows now, 3D printing has a sprue or a raft, which they call it a raft. So you pop it out, you find the holes, and you may have to use a little bit of basic modeling skills to open up the holes a little bit. Maybe use pin vise or something. And then you just pop them in the holes. Now this is ridiculous. This is not the right masting for this ship. This sloop is definitely not going to be fitting that mast. But you can get this out of the box and onto the table in like an hour and a half. Why wouldn't you? They paint up beautifully. And the great thing about Sail Power is it's not a fleet ship game. It's a single ship. I have to remember to look at the camera instead of the screen over here. You are the captain. Listen to me now. You are the captain. And so your ship, you are the captain. Your ship is kind of the character that you play. The ship has hit points on its hull, hit points on the rigging. It has, you count the men on deck, you have the men in the rigging, you have the men below, and wherever you shift them around to is the jobs that you give them. Now, there's not a lot of, you're not micromanaging everything turn to turn. It's a very fluid game. It's not quite as fast as Tech Commander, where you have to keep your head on a swivel because things can change so quickly. But you can get through the turn relatively rapidly, and I think there are 9 steps to the turn, or 9 phases in the turn, and not all phases will always apply to you or apply to the table. Old Broadsides and Boarding Parties game. So funny you mention that. But this is a lot more than just a war game. This is a open world game. So you can play war. You can just sail right at them and fire everything. But remember, your ship, each player is encouraged to use one ship. Now you can run multiple ships, but after about 3 or 4 ships, your head starts spinning and your eyes start crossing, just because of having to do the plotting stage. Now, plotting is when you actually pre-plot your move. But that's actually probably the hardest, but it's also the shortest. So it's the hardest thing to kind of wrap your head around, because you're going to slow down if you hit the wind, or you're going to speed up if you go with the wind. And we're not doing trigonometry. We're just going to add or subtract along that heading how you actually interact with the wind. I'll have to do some videos about it here eventually. But so the old Broadsides and Boarding Parties games, it's sort of like there's some of that DNA, as you actually have boarding parties. You have to assign crew to their jobs. So you assign crews to work on the deck to run the guns. You assign crew to work in the rigging to be able to sail the ship. You assign crew to the boarding parties, crew to the deck for cannons, crew to aloft, and then you assign a crew to repair, and you assign crew to boarding party. Well, boarding party is also like your away team. So if you dock with an island, or if you want to explore an island, you have to have people in the boarding party to be able to go ashore. All ashore is going ashore, right? You have an exploration phase. when you go ashore. And what it is, and this is one of the cool things, this is something I got here at Adepticon. Let's see. So, this is the full set of Sail Power cards. Now in this set of Sail Power cards, you have reference cards. So this is the reference card. This is the reference card for the rail cannon. So it shows you how it works. Just gives you the positives and negatives for it, for various things. And then this is the damage that it incurs rolled by your opponent. There's a whole thing to shooting. Rules for small boats. Spotting rolls. There's a phase where you can actually look through your spyglass to see what you... It's basically an information gathering phase. And then, so there are all of these informational cards, which are very handy. It's actually a lot easier than flipping through the book. Just pick out the cards that you're going to be using with your ship, and maybe a couple of the other reference cards. And you don't have to have the whole book out on the table, except for very few cases. So this is the damage card, the use card. Excuse me, the use card for the heavy carronade. So you have that, and then you have 200. There are 200 treasure cards. There are 200 unique treasures that you can uncover. For instance, just randomly, this is the large millstone. The large millstone weighs 2 tons. You can actually get extra points for it if you sell it at a C, that is C as in Charlie, type port. You get 40 points just for finding it, and then you get 40 points if you have it at the end of the game or if you actually sell it at that port. There's a detailed hoarder's map. Again, these are random treasures. There are 200 of them in the game, and you can actually do treasure hunting on islands. You can also do a lot of wheeling and dealing and trade at ports. You can recruit guys at ports. You can deliver the mail from one port to the other. We actually had a lady in one of our invitational games for previous winners. She won the game because she stayed out of the fights that all the guys were getting into, and she actually delivered the mail from port to port and opened up trade routes. So think of what's the old saying? There's nothing so as like God as a captain on the sea. At the time period, they had a lot of leeway. So like this one, like I was saying, this is a detailed hoarder's map. You get 75 points just for finding it, but then you get 150 if you have it at the end of the game. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not just a sail right at them and fire everything sort of a game. There are a lot of ways to engage with sail power as the game goes on. So I like to say it's the convergence where a miniatures game and a role-playing game come together. And the few things that you have to understand that, say, for instance, the sailing part, the plotting your movement. Plotting your movement is the toughest part of the game, but it is not... We're not doing trigonometry. It's just, here you go, this is your value. This is your value plus or minus against the wind or with the wind. So, but anyway, and then That's from That's from Sea Dog Game Studios. Sail Power is the name of the game. So exploration, does it turn full on RP? So exploration is for every 10 men in your boarding party, you get a +1. Now the scoring is on a D20 at under 10, right? So the base score is to roll 10 or under for exploration. Now, for every 10 men that you have in your boarding party, and nobody can go ashore unless you have them in the boarding party. So for every 10 men that you have in the boarding party, you get a +1. So it extends the range. So if I have 10 guys in the boarding party, I get a +1. So it'd be 11 or less. If I have 20 guys in the boarding party, it would be 12 or less. If I have 30 guys, it's going to be 13 or less. Pirate ships have overcrowding as part of their special abilities, so they can actually hold more crew. So we had one guy who put like 70 dudes in his boarding party, so that's a +7. That's a 17 or less. So that's how you explore. Now role playing comes into place when you're dealing with other captains, when you're dealing with, say, the governor of a port, or say the governor of a fort, so ports and forts. Role-playing comes at a lot of times through organic player interaction. Because it's not always about sailing right at somebody and shooting them. Sometimes, so we had a lawyer that used to play with us. His name was Chip. He was the lawyer for Gamma, who is unfortunately no longer on this plane of existence. So he actually was wheeling and dealing and using his lawyerly skills to wheel and deal with other players. And it was a thing of beauty. So yeah, you are the captain. So you make all the decisions. Think of the ship as your character, or think of so we have a ship record sheet that is very much like a character sheet. So it gives you a place for notes, a place to record your cargo, a place to record your crew, a place to record hit points on the ship. It gives all those numbers. It's a place where you can you track where you assign people to work. So, is someone strictly a referee, or is it all players taking turns in some kind of order and self-adjudicating using the rules themselves? Yes, both. We at the convention games, we use game masters because a lot of the returning players are casual players, so they might play once, twice a year if they come to the conventions. I would say very casual players. Although we do have some players who buy the rule book and they read it, and they're very interested in what's in the rule book. But you do take turns around the table as you do things. Movement all happens at the same time. So everybody plots and then everybody moves. And then we just kind of go around. The next thing after plotting is spotting. So you go around and you ask who's spotting. That is basically who wants to try to find out information about the world around them. And so that's where some of the role play starts. And that's where having a game master helps. But a game master is not necessary to the playing of the game, because you can actually just decide on conditions. You can say, okay, well, that over there is an uninhabited island. That over there has a settlement. We don't know who's on it. We'll just play that out as it comes. That's a British port. That's a French port. That's a pirate port. And then you just go. Okay, so then you can actually agree as players as to what is what in the world, and play it out and just do high-low rolls. Right. But it's fun to have a game master to run things and do silly voices and the like. Hey, Miar, how you doing? So that's so yes, both there, Michael. Both. So you can have someone strictly a referee, or players just all taking turns in an order. Do you play on some kind of a blank map and fill out details as the game plays out? Michael asks. Hello, Miar. Good to see you. If I didn't say that already, I've got the memory of a goldfish. So, I'm just talking about sale power a little bit. We nearly sold out of all of our models at Adepticon, Miar. So, do we play on some kind of a blank map and fill out details as the game plays out? No. You actually build the board first. You lay out all the terrain. So we play on a seascape, big blue cloth, or mats, or whatever you want. You know, whether it's printed mats or big blue cloth, whatever you have available. And then we actually place islands and shipwrecks. You can explore everything on the table, and you use that exploration mechanic to find out what you find, to see what you find. The mechanic is D20, 10 or less, plus any bonuses you get from having people on your boarding party. But you can explore everything that's not inhabited. So you can't explore a port, but you can actually search for merchants to do business with in a port. You can't search a fort, but you can wheel and deal with the governor of that fort. You can search just about anything else on the table. So that would be islands and wrecks, because there's really not much more. Islands, wrecks, big rocks, anything can be interacted with as far as exploration. But no, you have a table, very much like a wargame table, right? And then you have your model islands and ports and everything to sail your model ships to. If you got the PDF, because the $10 PDF, all of Sea Dog Game Studios PDFs are $10. Or you could get the rule book. I think the black and white rule book is $26 or $28, and the full color is $40-ish. Interesting. Do you take turns setting up the terrain, i.e. one sets an island somewhere, the next? Usually whoever sets up the game sets things up. As far as game masters, a game master would be setting the board, set things up. But there's nothing that says that you couldn't take turns. If it was just you and another player, there's nothing that says that you can't take turns setting things up. Just be fair, you know. Just be fair in setting it up. Kind of take turns setting. You set a piece, I'll set a piece. And then you kind of decide on the conditions. Who's at war? Is there things at war? Is there an uneasy peace? What are the Dutch doing? What are the French doing? What are the English doing? What are the Americans doing? What are the French doing? So you just kind of set up according to what are the conditions going to be in the game. But yeah, you could you could actually do either way. The game master could set things up prior to the game being played, or you could take turns setting up terrain. It's very easy. There's a lot of some things there are suggestions in the rule book, but there's some things there's suggestions but not full heavy duty rules, you know. Again, it's very low impact RPG if you want to look at it like that. Not every single situation is adjudicated. However, for just about anything nautical in the game, there is a rule for anything nautical. Yeah, DSL, LSD 25. There's a beginning rule set, which basically just gives you some of the really super basic rules. But I mean, $10 for a PDF. Why wouldn't you? And if you wanted to play with proxies, so if you have some of the old Pirates of the Spanish Main WizKids figures, WizKids figures, the ones that popped out of the card, I don't know if you remember those or not. Those are good to use. They're not quite the same scales that we're using, but they're nice to represent things. Or, here's the other thing. If you wanted, what you could do is just... Yeah, it is. It definitely is, Michael. What you could do is you could go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get a couple of bags of different sized joining biscuits. Because joining biscuits, they're about yay long. Some are longer, some are shorter. But they've kind of got roughly a ship shape. And then you just stat out, because there are historical prototypes in the back of the book. And those historical prototypes, you can actually riff on those and design your own ships. But but you're going to want to track where your cannons are. So if you get yourself some biscuits, some joining biscuits, and then you take your Sharpie marker, you can just mark along the side of the ship where your guns are. And you can do that, and you can proxy it, and just to get the feel of it. But I'll tell you what, there ain't no model like a Sail Power model. They go together easy. They're worth the money. They're beautiful. They paint up nicely. They're made out of TGM7, which is a little bit more expensive resin. But let me show you the cool thing about this slightly more expensive resin. So you see how it bends? Now, obviously, if I bend it too far, it will break. But that's TGM7. It's slightly more expensive, but it is it's gamer resistance. But yeah, the Sail Power models are great. They're affordable. And you only need one per player. So, Miar says, Sail Power was cool. Yes, I'm glad you think so, Miar. Appreciate it. We'll have to play next time you maybe come down. Maybe if they do that convention in Louisville again, if you come down, we'll have to play some. We'll have to play some Fire and Ice as well. I got to get started on painting those up, or else I'm never going to get them. But yeah, so Sail Power, we nearly sold out of Sail Power models. We sold a few rule books too. So it's a good game. In fact, what's funny is a lot of our sales went to people that hadn't played in our games. so that was funny. So anyway, the cards. So the cards are kind of like Sail Power. I don't want to say 2.5. But in the book, there are only 100 random treasures in the book. But there are 200 random treasures in the cards. In the book, you have to roll for it. The cards you just shuffle them up really good, and you pick 3, and you always get those 3, but you might have to fight for them. So there's a little bit of risk reward on going for the treasure. So that's what I got from my boss at Sail Power at Sea Dog Game Studios was was a full set of the Sail Power cards, and that's all the reference cards and all the treasure cards. And while they're not required for the game, they're nice to have. They're a really good asset, really fine expansion for the game as it stands right now. So, and we happened in on a surfeit of Crown Royal bags, so everyone it comes in these come in a Crown Royal bag. So buy a pack of cards and get a free dice bag, or buy the dice bag and get a free set of cards, depending on which way you look at it. Just picked up the full rule book. Nice. Well, hey, if you just picked up the full color hardback, if you don't mind, send a note to Sea Dog Game Studios and tell them that you picked it up and you were on my stream. So, the next thing I got at Adepticon was I picked up the Kings of War Champion rules. So, Kings of War Champions is basically an army in a box game. And I talked to Ronnie Renton about this last year. I did a little interview with him on it. I'm going to do a review, but I was really interested in this. These boxes have troops that I've already got in the ambush kits, so I didn't have to buy an army for this. But the Kings of War Champions, I'm looking forward to reviewing this, so we'll do that one day, not tonight. I picked that up. That was a purchase. They also have some terrain and a terrain map that I wanted to get, but because of certain things happening financially for me that I'm still working on recovering from, I was on a very tight budget this year. So the things I would have gotten years sometime back were no longer not really that. I couldn't be quite as free this year. Let's see. I picked up this little, this is a sanding tool. So this is a sanding tool, a little reciprocating sander from Dispier. I think Ninjon might have reviewed this on his channel, but it has different heads, interchangeable heads that you can use on this, and that's going to be handy for doing things like 3D prints. So that'll help sand down some of the layer lines on 3D prints and do some finish work. So this is from Dispier, Dispaie. I'm sure that there's a white label, but that's the brand right there, Dispier. But I'm looking forward to breaking that out and seeing how that works for me. Let's see. I stopped by the Bits guy and picked up a couple of old dreadnoughts. Do some eBay mini rescuing here. This dreadnought had two twin-linked autocannons, so I thought that was pretty neat. So we'll strip that bad paint job off and clean it up and put those together. And then another, this one was the old Blackreach, Assault on Blackreach dreadnought. So I like to pick those up at times, from time to time. So I picked that up. Those were the only things I got at the Bits guy, aka the Toledo Game Room, which he seems to have gotten a little more expensive over the years. So you don't find quite as good deals there as you used to, in my opinion, unfortunately. But if you are a die-hard Warhammer player, you're still going to find comparatively good deals to just buying brand new. Let's see. I went to the Cuttlefish Colors booth. Now, anybody that watches me on a regular basis knows that I love... Where is this stuff? Where is it? Where is it? Right here. Knows that I love... Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. Knows that I love this stuff. This is Cuttlefish Colors Merlin's Magic Medium. Now, what's in this is a secret. Well, it's not that secret. You can probably pretty well guess. But it's a little bit of matte medium. So you can actually use this as a varnish. It's got flow improver in it. It's got a little glazing medium in there. This is just an amazing product. I use it on the regular. And as you can see, I'm halfway down to it, and if I'm having trouble using water for my paints, I will use this because it works really good and keeps you from breaking the paint. That's Merlin's Magic Medium by Cuttlefish Colors. Again, I don't get any kind of consideration for talking about this stuff. But Cuttlefish Colors not only has Merlin's Magic Medium, which I got a reload on that. Excuse me. So I got a reload of Merlin's Magic Medium. So I'm happy about that. But I also picked up a couple of other additives that they've developed. One is called Genesis Prime, and the other one is called Genesis Evolution. So this thins Genesis base paints, which I have the Genesis base paints, which I believe the Genesis base paints are probably very similar to the Pro Acryl paints. The Pro Acryl paints and the Genesis paints. So this is a Cuttlefish Colors paint bottle. So this is a Cuttlefish Colors paint bottle, and this is a Pro Acryl paint bottle. Do you notice there's a similarity here? So, I mean, I could put my tinfoil hat on and think that somebody's white labeling for somebody else, just picking out their colors. I don't know if that's the case. I'm guessing. I do know that Cuttlefish Colors and Pro Acryl are both made in the United States. I'm not sure if they're made in the same facility. But anyway, I can thin one down to a... this helps turn it into a wash or a glaze. And this one, the Prime, turns it into an incredibly protective and receptive primer. So this gives a little bit of flatness, a little bit of tooth. So I'm looking forward to using those additives. And as you know, one of my favorite things of all time is Dirty Down Rust. Now, I'm about halfway out of this bottle, but I picked up Yellow Rust. So I'll use a little bit of the regular rust and a little bit of the yellow rust, and then we'll see some really cool stuff happen, right? So I picked up the Yellow Rust at the Goblin's Hut booth, and yeah. So there was that. Okay, Michael, thanks for stopping in. Everybody decides to stream at once and have to make the rounds. Thanks for the game recommendations. Oh, you are welcome. Enjoy exploring Sail Power. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a nice combination between miniatures gaming and role playing. I think you're going to have a great time. But yeah, have a good time on your have a good time at your other parties there, Michael. All right, so I picked those up, and then let's see. I picked up Warzone Eternal. Now, maybe if you are a gamer of a particular age, you might remember Warzone, which was actually a very, very strong contender against 40K for a while. In fact, our friend, who's no longer with us, Black Skull 1965, was telling me that back in the day, Warzone outsold 40K 3-1 at his game store back in the 90s. So this is Warzone brought back by Res Nova Games, but it is actually available from Transatlantis Games. So transatlantis.com, check them out. Again, I don't get anything for talking about this stuff. This is things I like. But I wanted to get this starter last year at Origins, but they were sold out of it. So I had to settle for the Bauhaus. So anyhow, so now I have Bauhaus and I have Imperial. So two starters to play against each other. Even if I never play, I think I'm going to have a lot of fun painting those up. Now, I didn't buy this figure. This was given to me. There is what's called the very important gamer bag. It's a swag bag that you can pay a little extra dollars, and there's all sorts of cool things in it. So I didn't pay for that, but they have extras left over, and so what will happen is Adepticon personnel will take these swag bags and they'll start roaming through the convention and just handing stuff out. So I got the Victoria Miniatures Adepticon model for the year. So I thought that was really cool. So this was actually last year's Adepticon model from Victoria. As well as, she also did our friend Clint Beaver. So Clint's now immortalized in resin. So he is known as the Robe Guy. He wears a boonie, an ACU boonie, ACU colored boonie. And actually the pattern is called UCP, Universal Camouflage Pattern. Horrible camouflage pattern. And a white robe. So he wears a camo hat and a white robe. So that's Clint. If you ever see him, you'll know him. He's kind of worked his look into a brand, and now there's a miniature of him. But he was available at Adepticon last year, and this was last year's Adepticon miniature, which I did go to the booth and buy that one, but I just happened to be passing up one of the Adepticon people, and he pulled this out of the bag and handed it to me. He said, "Here, have a mini." So I said, "All right," and that's pretty cool. It's very similar to the who was that? Robert Duvall, the Colonel in Apocalypse Now, who said, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning." So yeah, that's going to be enjoyable to paint up. And then my boss at Sea Dog Game Studios gave me this cool little vise. He found these vices at the Display booth, AK Studios booth. And so that's a little hobby vise, which can come in handy. I'm sure it'll come in handy soon. And then, let's see. I went to the Reaper booth. The Reaper booth had samples of the new Reaper series paints. So I got a couple of samples of the new Reaper paints. It's a reformulated Master Series. So they're getting into the redo thing now. So I got the Blood Red Master Series paint and the Brilliant Green Master Series paint. So that's their new thing. And then I picked up a bunch of bases as well. I've been using these 45 millimeter bases on some of my monster teams for Song of Blades and Heroes. Like, I've got orcs, and I've got... I used a lot of these on the gnolls that I did a couple of months ago. So I replenished my 45 millimeter bases. And I only got four blisters of those, which cleared off that peg. I went back the next day, and I didn't want to get any more. I wanted to get some more, but again, I was on a little bit of a budget this year, so I couldn't quite give into my desires with such abandon. So there was that. Then there is a gentleman by the name of Patrick Keith. Patrick Keith is an amazing sculptor. He does a lot of work for Reaper, but he also has his own company called Bombshell Miniatures. And this year, as part of his Bombshell Miniatures line, he has a game called Counterblast. It's kind of pulp sci-fi, 1940s, 1950s style Buck Rogers sort of looking. I guess you'd call it ray gun punk. Ray gun punk, whatever. Sort of, Buck Rogers sort of stuff. Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. So this year, he produced this. And this is the new big thing in the Counterblast line. When I saw him show this on his Instagram and Facebook, I knew I had to have one. And it was only $100. So I mean, it was spendy for being on a budget. It was spendy. This was my big take of the show was this. So I'm looking forward to putting that together. But yeah, that's going to be fun. Counterblast. This is by Patrick Keith, available from Bombshell Miniatures. And yeah, Patrick is a neat guy. He also shouted out a friend of his on his Instagram and Facebook page, who is doing a line of fantasy figures. And this is from a company called Table Figs. So here's a cool looking dwarf warrior from Table Figs, designed by Ben and Jeff Rodman, obviously cast in lead-free white metal. And here's another dwarf of some sort. And here is, I guess an elf fighter of some sort. They give them all fancy names. I'm not going to worry too much about it. But this is by Table Figs. You can look them up online, I'm sure. And let's see. I dropped one because I do that sometimes. I drop things. Ouch. Bumped my head. This actually reminds me a lot of the Grey Wizard from the Warhammer line. So there's someone to mislead young hobbits off into adventure. Sorry, halflings. We'll call them halflings. And then another cool looking fighter type. So those are by Table Figs, and those were I got those at the Miniature Building Authority booth. Hey, Feisty Crab Man, how you doing? So I think that is all of my haul from Adepticon. Oh, and Cuttlefish Colors gave me a shirt. So I got a shirt for $10 from Cuttlefish Colors. So he threw that in with the things I got from them, and they were selling the a full box of paint, like their whole line. So I'm about to airbrush my Boba Fett shoulder pads. Oh, shoulder pads! Wish me luck. Yeah, best of luck, Miar. Hopefully that goes well for you. So that is my Adepticon haul, and of course, this year was also the inaugural session of the miniatures as art, and this was what I added. This is what I entered into it. For those of you who tune in on a regular basis, you probably have heard me talk about, at least the last 3 weeks before Adepticon, I started working on this. As Miar knows, and maybe Greedy remembers, but friend of the channel, great painter, fun guy, devoted husband. I mean, what can we say about Black Skull? He passed away. These two miniatures I got in the mail the day after he passed away. Now, I wasn't going to enter any painting competitions because I don't paint for Golden Demon, and yeah, I don't paint for Golden Demon. I don't have anything painted up for Marvel Crisis Protocol. And I don't have anything that was by any of the companies that were supporting Resin Beast. But I had this, and I was just going to paint it up for our Space Station Zero game, which is why he sent me these figures. These were for our Space Station Zero game. But I knew that I had to do something special with them. So I entered them into the Miniatures as Art competition. Miniatures as Art, I shouldn't say as a competition. It was just a display, or it was a showcase this year. It was sort of a competition. There were some best of or judge's choice awards. But I didn't feel judged. I felt privileged to actually be part of the show and have this in there. So I entered it because Ron can't enter things anymore. That's it. I'm not really much for putting things in competitions, but I enjoyed this. I put it in there. I had a good time painting it. I tried something I don't usually try. Notice there's OSL going on here. It's not the greatest OSL, as I did it kind of last minute. I hadn't intended on OSL. But the idea of the Miniatures as Art showcase, that came up after I started this model. So I thought I should do something. I should do something special. I should push myself a little bit, and I should put it in. And I should do something that I don't usually do with this. So I did. I put it in there. Now, obviously it wasn't flashy enough or eye-catching enough to win any prizes, which is fine. It's like Black Skull. Last year he won something in Resin Beast, but he just put something in there to put something in there. He didn't think he was going to win anything, but he got a high award in last year's Resin Beast. Well, I kind of put this in the same the same spirit of, well, I'll just put something in, you know? It's what Black Skull would have done. So I did. And what was funny is, this was sort of a compliment to me, is the lady that was taking pictures, because they documented all of these. They took pictures of everything. And she said, I had a lot of fun photographing your figure. So to me, yeah, I didn't win some award to take home. I didn't win something, that I can hang on the wall. I didn't. But to me, when somebody says, "Hey, I really liked your piece," or "Hey, I had a good time. I had a lot of fun photographing that piece." To me, that's a W. That's a big W for me. So, and here's something. What's funny is there was a gentleman who painted the shield. You couldn't see the shield from the front of the figure, but you could see the back of the shield from the back of the figure. And so he got an award for best back of figure. So you should probably spend a lot of time on the back as well. Now here's something that I don't think anybody noticed. I don't know if you can see it out there in TV land. But right here, where his foot is touching that crystal, there's a little point of light, and it's radiating out. So it's like there's an electromagnetic interference where his foot is touching. So, but anyway, these will be. I'll use these in the Space Station Zero game we got coming up. We got a session planned for Sunday afternoon, so Space Station Zero, as intended, we'll be using these. So, anyhow, that's my Adepticon haul. So hopefully it's fun. It's pretty cool. I found some new things. And I hope that it encourages you to come to Adepticon and find cool things too. So let's take a little break here, and I'm going to clean up and put things back. If you're just showing up, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. If you missed the greater part of the stream, well, you can watch the VODs on Twitch, obviously for just a limited time afterwards. But you can also see them all in their glory on YouTube and Rumble. They're going to stay there for a while. So anyhow, I'm just going to straighten up just a little bit here. But I think we'll take a little break. And then after the break, we'll get to painting. So, because that's what everybody's here for. They say, hurry up and paint something, you snot. So, all right. I think that's everything put away that I got out. Oh, well, this stuff is going to sit. This stuff is going to stay on the table. I have a messy table. Don't look at my table. It's messy. I need to get that under control. So, tool, got a new tool. We'll put that here with the tool stuff. All right. Well, let's take a little break, and then we'll get back. We'll get to painting. I don't know what we're going to paint. I really hadn't thought about it. Well, I have thought about it, actually, a little bit. I think I'll finish up some of these Notcrons, these scarabs, because, like I said, we got a game of, we've got several sessions of Space Station Zero coming up here before too long. So, want more viewers? No, Gruff, I do not want more viewers. Actually, I do, but I don't want to pay for them. We do things the old-fashioned way. We struggle, and deal with self-doubt. We're going to report you as a bot. Bot selling views. At, what would this be? See, 2, no, be one. Let's see, we've been an hour, hour and a half. Let's see, 1 hour, 7:30 to 8:30 is an hour. I start the stream with the 15-minute countdown. So that's 15, that's an hour, hour and 15, hour and a half at 1:32. One. Block it and ban it. All right. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and we'll take a little break, and then we'll get going. We'll be back in just a bit. This is not the bio break. This is just a break. Well, it could be a bio break, but yeah, I need to work on that. I need to work on some cards. So anyway, we'll be back. All right. Okay, here we go. Oh, come on. Pop out, chat. Okay. All right. Here we go. Let's paint something. Let's paint all the things. All right. Excuse me. I mowed the lawn this afternoon after work, so who knows what I got in my nose. All right, so we're gonna pretend like these are completely done. And who knows? I might go back and touch some things up on it, but that's completely done for the time now. All the things. We're gonna paint all the things. We're gonna paint all the things we can. All right, let's go ahead and work on this a little bit more. I don't think this one's going to be quite as involved as the last one. So let's go ahead and yeah, we'll just go ahead and start getting things painted up a little bit here. I'm going to start out with some white blue. My Procryl. I'll need help with that. No doubt you are. Alright, here's some white blue, and we'll lay down the white blue on these scarabs. Right there. I'd like to get rid of this shadow somehow. Nope, that just makes it worse, doesn't it? It's a little bit better. So we'll take a little bit of that, and we'll just hit this here. We'll give a nice little bright white blue undercoat before we're going to use plasmatic bolt, just like we did before, to really make that pop. Also wanted to mention, I was doing a little filming. I didn't film as much this year as I did last year. I did film some, and as I was filming, I stopped by the War Machine booth, Steamforge Games booth there, and chatted with Jake Krajewski, who was working a shift there at the Steamforge Games booth. And then I turned to leave, and I turned to my right, and I walked up the aisle, and there was the Gale Force 9 Battlefront booth. And of course, I wanted to mention how we lost Jeff Smith this year as well as Black Skull. So there were two people that weren't there that should have been there this year. So I got to go to our little celebration of life that Ed at Monster Den Minis put on for in memoriam of Black Skull Ron. So we were able to get together and commiserate a little bit, but I was not able to get to go join the I hate to use the word festivities, that's not right, but I was hoping to be able to go and visit a little bit with those of us who have gotten to know Jeff a little bit over the years. Obviously, I didn't know him quite as much as the guys he used to work with at Workshop, but we chatted online a little bit, and he and Mike had their Saturday morning their Saturday morning podcast live stream that they would do. But you get to know people online a little bit. But again, Jeff was one of those guys, you know, he worked in the industry. He was good at what he did. And he was a father and a grandfather. And he loved his grandbabies. He was just about as proud of them as anybody has a right to be, you know. So it's tragic that we lose these people, but things happen. Health issues get the best of us. So like Gandalf said, it's not the time that we have, but what we do with the time that we have. So make the best of it. Take care of yourselves, too. Get those checkups. Get those yearly checkups, especially if you are getting on in years. So take your vitamins, get plenty of sleep, eat healthy foods. All the things that you heard growing up but found it's difficult to do as you get older. On the other hand, you could take care of yourself, be the world's healthiest person, and get hit by a bus, you know? But that doesn't mean we shouldn't try, right? Trying and failing is not really failing. Oh, something I forgot was Procryl released their one-step paint at Adepticon as well. So I haven't had a chance to try this yet. But this is their speed paint. So they were not handing out, but this was available to purchase. So I think you got it free with purchase. I didn't make a purchase, I just bought it. So, but I'm looking forward to trying that in conjunction with the new Dirty Down product that I got. The Yellow Rust. Oh, the Yellow Rust of Texas. What? That's not how that goes. But yeah, it was a little bit sad passing by the Battlefront Gale Force 9 booth. That was a lot sad, really. All right, let's get a little dark neutral gray here. And then I'm gonna do something with these rocks that are in the center of this base where these guys are crawling up out of. So there's these rocks that these guys are crawling up out of. So let's see what kind of things we can do to those. To be honest, at this point, I absolutely hate Prochryl's yellow. Why is that? I'll tell you. Let me recommend a yellow that you might try. Is one called? There's a company called Bear Cavalry. Bear Cavalry's yellow is pretty nice, but yellow is one of those things that I think, no matter what company you get, it's gonna always be causing you problems to some extent. It's always gonna have to be a 2-coat. Or lay it down over top of like a pink or a tan. I'm not trying to discount I don't want to discount your experiences there, Miar, by any means. But yellow is can just be a real challenge, you know. Oh, it tears and solidifies in mid-stroke because of the Illinois weather. Yeah, if it's too hot, I'm sure that you're losing moisture out of it. And so it wants to dry faster. It wants to dry fast. So yeah. You got to remember, though, Illinois weather is actually not too far off from southern Ohio weather. Are you working in a air-conditioned area with it? Because sometimes that can help. And then don't be afraid. Like I said, you know, I got this stuff. This is what I use when I'm having trouble with a paint. But of course, you can also use many other. Where is it? You can also use other. Oh, getting stuck here. So this is Flow-Aid that I've decanted. So that's a good go-to right there. So Liquitex Flow-Aid additive. And there's also, where is it? I've got some other drying retardants and the like. I don't know where those got to though. I've got glaze medium. I've got a bottle of glaze medium and a bottle of drying retardant too. There's nothing wrong with throwing a little bit of additive in there. So sometimes having those tools helps. Don't be afraid to get your hobby supplies at the art store. Alright, while we wait for that to dry, I'm going to go ahead and do a little more work with some of the paint that's on the palette. on some of these other little items here. So, get a dry brush. We'll use the small dry brush. Pick up a little water. Grab some paper towel. Knock off the paint from the dry brush and jibba 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 jibba. Oh. That's too close in value. Bring it up a little bit. Jibba 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 jibba. Just quick and dirty. Jibba 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 jibba. Not going to quite as much effort on these bases because there's a lot bigger bases than I did on the goblins that I did. Because I had fun sculpting. So I wanted to, I really wanted to paint those bases that I did with those goblins. I wanted to do a little extra because I was really proud of the sculpting work that I did to work on those. These are not quite as good. So they're just going to be very basic, good enough for gaming. What this is all about is. We're not doing super duper, super wet blends and super display piece work here. We're just doing fun. Remember, this is a hobby. Hobbies are fun. I hear a lot of these. I listen to a lot of these professional painters, and sometimes it just sounds to me like they're not having any fun. But then again, sometimes complaining is the fun part. Everybody likes to tell you about their trials and tribulations. Why? So they can recount how... They're not complaining about their trials and tribulations. They're recounting how they overcame those trials and tribulations. That's really what it's all about. Is looking at the problem, facing the problem, and working towards your success. So, we're not doing any fancy lighting effects or anything. We're just painting just to have fun painting. Just to sling paint and get it on something. And make something cool that you can proudly put on the table. It'll look good in a display case. But fun is what we want here. We're going for fun. We're going for good, but good enough for gaming and fun. Dry brushing is one of those things that it's an early skill that you learn. At least I found myself using dry brush less and less the more I learned other methods. Layering, washing, edge highlighting. where you're using more control over the brush to get your results, as opposed to kind of the wild and carefree abandon that we do when we do airbrushing. But that's just the great thing about airbrushing I've not used an airbrush. Dry brushing. Sometimes dry brushing feels like you're airbrushing, just painting with air. But I digress. It's one of those early on methods, approaches that you learn, but oftentimes it is forgotten or discounted when learning other methods. And so I have made it a point of late to try to use more accessible painting methods like dry brushing, because it's still valid no matter how experienced you get. I see a lot of display painters, competition painters. They're picking up. They actually use quite a bit of dry brush, a surprising amount of dry brush. But the real trick is, and this is where an advanced painter kind of sets his bar, or her bar, sets their bar. We don't discriminate here. They know what and when to dry brush. So that's really the trick, is to know what to dry brush and when to dry brush. And is it dry brushing or is it overbrushing? Overbrushing is done with a little bit more paint on your brush than not. So, although I think the distinction is academic, it's so close, how can you tell? You know? I may throw a black wash on these tombstones as well. So yeah, Adepticon for me this year was it was great. It was sweet. It was good, but there was a little bit of bitterness just because of the people we lost. It was so that was sad. But you know, when people get together to remember you, how they remember you is as important as that they remember you. You know? Because you could remember somebody and say, oh yeah, that guy was a jerk. Or you could remember somebody and say, you know what, I really miss them. There was this time that this happened and that happened and this other thing. You know. So But it occurs to me that I think you could even dry brush out like OSL effects. Or at least it would give you a good start, because you're going to be catching the high areas, and where a low area is going to be a shadow. So I think that would work as well. So I think dry brushing can get you a long way in a short period of time. So don't classify dry brushing as a beginner's skill. It is one of the earliest skills to be learned, but is by no means one to be abandoned or looked down upon. So, all right, we're going to set these rats over here. Let those be for a little while. We're going to mix up some plasmatic bolt. All right. So let's use this. Let's do this. Let me get some speed paint medium. Here's the speed paint medium. Watch your ears. I'm going to mix it on the mixer. All right. And I'm going to put this in just instead of the water, I think. So we'll get this to flow a little bit better. Maybe add just a drop of water. But the speed paint medium keeps you from breaking the speed paint. So water can have bad effects on the speed paint. So I think I thinned it down a little bit too much. The color is not quite the saturation that I'd like. But it is. I am not really doing what I did with the other set of scarabs, which I actually mixed up all of the steps for the light work in it. So it's no doubt, no surprise that it's not quite giving me quite the same result. That's okay. we can always add a little bit more. If we have to. I missed a few spots because I was talking. I was yammering away. Oh, missed a spot with the speed paint there too, didn't I? I was yammering away. Just flapping my gob. We'll let that white dry up before we go back to it. Is there anything I can do with the colors that are on the palette right now? Not really. Not really. I can darken these bats back up, break them off of, give them a little break up off of the stone, but I'm going to hit those with black anyway. I'm going to use black and blue, maybe black and blue and purple. I don't know, something like that. I think what I'll do too is I'll use some of this plasmatic glow to kind of feather out some of the effect here too. Because I don't know if I was touching it and it just was, I kind of wore some of the paint away or not, but it's kind of weird there. I'm just going to bring it up and make it a little more robust. Right here. Kind of thin that off a little bit. Make it not quite so liney. See how that looks when it dries. I think that would be a little bit better, a little more of an improvement. Alright, looks pretty dry. I'll go ahead and dash some more plasmatic bolt in there. Which I'm doing these in a more classic Necron-ish sort of a way. Though when I do my Necrons, my personal ones, these like the official Necrons. These are unofficial Necrons. These are what you might call not-crons. I believe they were sculpted by the sculpted by, but sculpted with the intent of using them in one-page rules. I think that's what these were intended for use with, was the one-page rule set. So that's where I think these came from. And then we'll put some plasmatic glow on these rocks to work with the gradient that I've already painted down there already. I think it might be cool that they're glowing too, maybe made out of some of the ore that powers these critters. Or what? Yes, the ore that powers these critters. Or what powers these critters? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Ore powers these critters. That's kind of cool. That might work. There's some definite gradient in there between the white and the gray and the blue gray and the green gray that was already in there. I may need to be more subtle, but the great thing about Speed Paint 1.0, which is what I've got, is I can take a damp brush and I can wipe it away after it's dried. So we can do a little more interesting gradients with it even after it's dried. That's good. Although I think maybe too bright would maybe add too much visual clutter between these rocks and the scarabs popping up out of them. So maybe a little darker. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Alright. I think I've got color everywhere I wanted color on these. They're not going to win any awards, but that's not what we're doing this for. We're doing it to play with them. Put them on the table. So I'm going to take a little bit of Pro Acryl Coal Black. And we are going to finish the rim. We're going to go around the edge here. And, yeah, paint the rim. And pretend like we're at the Grand Canyon and we're going to go around the rim. Hiking the Grand Canyon, the way down is the easy part. The way back up is a little tougher. You can go on a day hike that gets you about a third of the way down. Me and my stepbrother did that one year when we were out there. We took lots of water. Didn't drink much water going down, but boy, we sure guzzled it coming back up. They recommended a certain amount of water, and we took that amount. And we were done with our water jugs were empty by the time we got back to the top. So yeah. Picked up some kind of debris there. Get back in focus there, JP. Get out of the camera. I need a little light right here on the bottom of the camera. Alright, let that dry so we don't put any undue brush strokes in there. We're going to call that done for now. And while I've got the blackout on the palette, I'm going to go ahead and hit these bats again, because I kind of lightened them up a little bit there when I dry brushed. So probably need to put some browns in there too, because bats aren't really black. I mean, they've got some black coloration, but they're also very brown. Look, when you're dealing with nature, actual beasts of nature, real animals and real things, don't be afraid to look at reference pictures. Yeah, Miar. We got back to the campsite, and our folks didn't know we made it back, so they were kind of out looking for us. And they didn't panic or get the rangers involved by any means. But they were a little concerned. We didn't know you guys were back already. Yeah, we were already back. Yep. We just came right back to the campsite. Nobody told us to wait like by the rim, by the trailhead or anything. So we got on the shuttle and we came back to the campsite. You know. But that was good times. Good times. Folks bought us a shirt, bought us both shirts at the gift shop there. Said, let's see, what was it? Boy, that shirt is long gone now. I don't know what ever happened to it. I think I finally wore it out. But it said, I crawled, I cried, I sweated. It was like all the worst things you could have happen to you. I hiked the Grand Canyon and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. Something to that effect. But I don't know whatever happened to that shirt. Lost in a move, or it just got wore out, or something happened to it. Grew out of it. I may have grown out of it, because as you know, Miar, I am not a tall fellow. And there was a time when I was a much slimmer fellow, too. So, as happens. But yeah, it was a good adventure. I don't think I'm quite in the shape that I was back then to be able to do that kind of a hike. It was a short hike. I mean, compared to the size of the Grand Canyon, it was a short hike. But it gets you about a third of the way down and back up. But it takes all day. And of course, it's slower going up than it is going down. So, but they say if you're going this far, this is where you turn around to go back up. If you're going this far, this is an overnight spot, because you're not going to get all the way down there at this point. If you're at this point, by this time of the day, you can make it all the way down. So they got it all figured out, which they should, you know. That's their job. But still, there's people that don't heed instructions. They don't know. There's this weird disconnect with people. They just think that because a place is publicly accessible, that it's safe. It is as safe as they can make it, which means that you have to have your wits about you. You have to you have to know what you're getting into. It's not Disneyland. And if you get yourself into a predicament, if you make it out, it's going to cost you a lot of money to be rescued. So, know the things that you need to know before you go on something like that. The Grand Canyon is not wheelchair accessible. Although I'm sure that there are amputees who have prosthetics that have no doubt made that hike. I'm pretty sure there are. Just because somebody served their country and got hit by an IED and lost a limb or two, some of these young people are determined that that's not going to slow them down. and they're not going to be confined to a wheelchair, so they get used to their prosthetic. They find one that works really good for them, and they live with it, and they do incredible things. It'd be better in the first place if it didn't have to gone and getting blowed up in a highly wasteful conflict. But that's neither here nor there. Alright, I think that serves well enough. Cool. Well, it's almost 10 o'clock, and I know I usually go till 11 on Thursday nights, but I'm running out of... I've just about painted all the things that I wanted to paint tonight to the level that I wanted to paint them tonight. There's things that are an ongoing continuation, and we'll paint some more of those again on Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. Tune in for the Super Alternating Saturday Show, or the SASS, that is SAS. Tune in on Saturday for the SAS, the Super Alternating Saturday Show. Right about 4 p.m. and it will go until who knows when. I don't have any projects planned for it, so we'll probably just work on some more on these swarms. Oh my goodness. Probably work some more on these swarms here. We're going to go ahead and put another little black around this base here. But I think probably we won't go too late tonight. I do have some other things I need to accomplish before I go to bed, so I'll do that. And I have had just a pretty amazing week already, what with work and everything, so I worked all night. I was supposed to work all night Monday night, but wound up getting cut short, so that was an 8-hour night. And then went back to it on Tuesday. And Tuesday, from the time I got onto the road to the time I got back last night, I was gone from 3:30 in the afternoon till 5 the next, or till 7, no, sorry, till between 7:30 and 8 o'clock the next day. So I don't know how many hours that was. I think 27. Is that right? I did take a nap, sort of, about 2 hours, from 11:30 to 1. So an hour and a half. No, 11:30 to 1:30 or so. When somebody called me, very inconsiderately. That was a rough one. But McDonald's has a new soda machine now and power to run it, so good for McDonald's. That was a rough one. It wasn't rough, it wasn't like the people aren't hard to deal with. You're all working for a common goal. It's just a long, 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 long night. So, and some of it honestly is just waiting around. We're just waiting for your turn to go on what you need to do. So I'm going to hit this base here on this completed one. Well, I think they're both, I could consider both of them completed. This one has better brush control strokes. I put a little more time into this one. Obviously, for reasons. But, yeah. I'll let this dry for 24 hours and we'll throw some varnish on it. Protect the paint. Protect the paint. All right, so I think the scarabs are, I'm going to call the scarabs done. Well, why don't you call them scarabs? Well, because they're complete. So why not just say that the scarabs are complete? Well, they're done. Yes, but they're not called done. They're called scarabs. We could go on like this. We can't go on like this forever. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for tonight. We're cutting a little short. It's almost 10 o'clock. Let's raid out on the Twitch. To the YouTubes and the Rumbles, we will say goodnight to you. Remember, no matter how bad today might have been, the sun is coming up tomorrow, and the world is a better place with you in it. Keep on painting. Keep on playing.